How's it going, my friends? How y'all doing today? My name's Carpo, for those who don't know. Figure I might as well introduce myself each time. Cheers. I decided to make this video here to dispel this notion that being a good businessman makes you a good person. Or that it makes you qualified that you've succeeded at life. And first off, I'm going to start off by saying that during this election cycle here in America, Donald Trump is running, and that would be the first thought that popped into my head when I started talking about that. But this video, the idea of it, I hadn't even thought about Trump. That just popped into my head just now. So I know while people might be thinking it may relate, it doesn't. That has to do with people thinking that a good businessman is a good leader, and that could be a completely different thing, and I won't even go there. But when it comes to this idea that if you put on a suit and you're good at swindling and talking to people, then you're somehow a good human. This is something I haven't understood. And let me back up a little bit and give you an idea of where I'm starting from here. With this Kratom ban coming into effect, I have to kind of figure out what I want to do next. And, I've always been into herbs, and when I started the Kratom business, really selling Kratom was a way of launching myself into doing other things. Really, my desire is to do blends and things that help people and learn about new herbs and plants and remedies. And so during this time, I've developed a few blends and whatnot. The thing is, I'm not a good businessman. I don't like business. And I'll be straightforward. I don't like dealing with customers, okay? I never have. And I will deal with the customers I have, to the extent that if I have a customer, I will treat them with the utmost respect. For a minute, Ethan, my vendor that I was buying Kratom from, he didn't take new customers. And sometimes people would ask me questions like, it makes me suspicious he doesn't take new customers. And I'd say, why? They'd say, what kind of a person doesn't want to make more money? And I would have to explain to them that sometimes it's not always about money. It's about peace of mind. Now, there are companies that are out to make a lot of money, and they make a very small profit margin, let's say, on their product, and they sell millions of them. And they can still become millionaires because they're making a small profit margin but selling a lot. Now, these are the kind of companies that can put forward, say, $10 million on a project and pull 15 out. You're still making $5 million, but you have the capital to invest. And what it does is it runs the small guys out of the business. Like the big companies that are making products makes it very difficult for a small person to get by in this world. My example would be, I was a carpenter before I started my herb business. And for about a decade and a half, on and off, I started out roofing, then I built additions, so I've done everything from foundations to roofs, and everything in between. And about 2004 or 5, I decided I really wanted to take on finish carpentry, because at the job we were working, it was a lake house. We'd been there for like 2 years, and we were finishing this curved staircase that came and wrapped around and had one open side, and it wrapped around and then kind of recurved back. Nobody wanted to tackle it. And basically, the boss was giving everybody free rein to do it. And I was like, well, I want to learn how to do this. So I got into finish carpentry. And I started learning how to do the work, and I loved the work I was doing. And I decided, well, I'm not making enough doing this as much as I should be. My boss is making all the money, so I'm going to get myself a license. And I started working as a subcontractor under him. And then later on, I went and got myself my own jobs. Point being that I hated being a businessman. I hated dealing with customers. I hated doing all the paperwork and bullshit that's involved in having a company. But I did it because I had to survive, right? We all have to eat. So, at that point, I realized I just don't like doing business. I don't like being the person who has to deal with customers or to make arrangements, or I don't like filing paperwork. I don't like writing things down. Everything I did from my Kratom business was like jotted down on various pieces of paper and whatnot. Although I always kept, most of the mailing lists and everything organized. I left, I'm trying to remember exactly why. The reason why I had to leave carpentry was because of my back. But I was trying to remember exactly why I brought carpentry into this, because it was relevant to the discussion. But anyhow, having to do with what it takes to be successful, okay, and what society deems successful. As a contractor, people would You know, I'd see these other contractors that were making all this money. But for me, it wasn't about the money. It was about the love of doing woodwork. But somebody's always there to capitalize on what you do. And this is a problem. Like, somebody mentioned copyright law the other day. And I said, copyright is a way so artists can get paid. And I said, on the contrary, as an artist, I would say that sometimes copyright is a way for artists to prevent other people from getting paid for their work. If you had any idea how many people have ripped off others' ideas, quotes, sayings, books, essays, the list is endless. Like, a person would think, okay, that's obvious that a lot of people have stolen others' ideas. But for me, I would feel guilty as hell doing anything like that. I would feel bad trying to take over on somebody else's business, or even buying. I would even feel stupid buying somebody's business because they built a name under, like, Bob and Sons Construction, and buy that so you can carry on the name that they've built for them, you know, for themselves. And you're selling a name for a value, but that value isn't there if you've sold it, and you're not the one doing the work anymore. You know, I've had a couple of companies offer me to buy their Kratom domains. When I started my business, they'd say, oh, you know, KratomWholesale.net is available, and we can sell it to you for, you know, only this many $1,000s. I'm like, I don't want a wholesale domain name. I don't want to base what I do on people having to look me up and just find me because I'm the first one they find. I want it to be word of mouth. Small business. But small businesses are just being forced out. Which reminds me of why I was going to say that, about the carpentry. As I became more into finished carpentry, I started doing custom jobs in the West Hills for this designer. And I built a couple kitchens, like 3 kitchens, and I did the cabinets for them. And in the end, it was almost not worth building cabinets, because you could go and buy Home Depot cabinets that were from China and imported, dirt cheap, but they look good and they're quickly built for, you know, a quarter of the price, if that, much less usually, maybe like a tenth of the price of building custom cabinets. And you think, is it really worth the extra pay? The only kind of people that want to pay that are the ones who want to say they spent more. So there are 2 kinds of businesses. There are the ones that cater to people's needs, and the one that cater to people's desire to look cool. And these are the companies like, I won't even try to delve into what's popular right now. I see the Juicy Sweats and the, you know, the Hollister clothes. And you know those clothes cost much more than the clothes are worth. And they're probably all made in foreign countries. And then posed as this American apparel, which American Apparel is another one of them, right? And I'm not going to doubt or even question or give a shit where these clothes come from. I don't care. The point is that person's paying a premium to wear somebody else's work. But there's no real work put into it. It's just a name. It's a conundrum. Trying to get people to break away from thinking that stuff is cool or makes you cool, or that being a good businessman makes you successful. So since I'm going to say that how much money you make and how nice your suit is and how much respect you have because of that, since I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that has absolutely nothing to do with success in this life, a person would ask me, well, that's just what humans do. And I'd say, no, that's what modern humans do. And they'd say, well, then what would you say is success? And I would say, well, success to me means you're happy. I see people out there who appear to have billions of dollars or even millions of dollars that work their asses off all the time, that are always gone, that are talking about how life is go, 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 and stress, 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 and the next thing you know, you're dead. And for what? You know, what was the point? Success is stopping to think about who you are and why you exist. Success is the ability to not just think about those things, but to have thought about those things so much that you've run philosophy into the ground, that it means nothing anymore, that you can just look around and see something and it can still amaze you every time you see it, like a maple leaf, cannabis leaf, anything. The way that nature comes together. You know, I feel like we are part of nature, you know, and that in that sense we should be able to watch nature and observe what it does and see that Not necessarily. What sets us apart is our consciousness, our awareness, but because of that, you have to realize in the animal kingdom, the alphas will always take more than their fair share. And it's always at the cost of the group. Not always, but let's just take various animal groups where the alphas will eat more than their share and the others will starve. Sometimes they will starve to death. Or that the biggest bird in the nest, let's say, will eat all the worms and the rest will just die or get pushed out of the nest. With humans, we're doing the same thing with money, because money is our replacement for worms. Money is our replacement for all these things. And so what is really success? And I guess that would bring me to talking about my kind of tent analogy. When we have, the reason why society that we have is this way is because we have built a structure that's so large that all the parts are so intertwined we don't know where to start with the disrepair. And I'm going to start small with the analogy of a tent. Each human can be a tent, okay? You can take your tent with you wherever you go. Sometimes it might get damaged. You might get a small rip in it, a small tear. That's fine, you can patch it, it's easy enough. What's the worst that could happen? Your tent will usually still function. You can always throw a tarp over the top. There's always a way to stay dry in your tent, if you know what you're doing. Then we move up to a community, which could be like a local government or state, and then we're talking about maybe a small mobile home, or a fifth wheel or something. Small local communities that nomadic tribes or whatnot. Those would be like fifth wheels that you can move around. Then a small community would be like a permanent fixture. These things can fall into more disrepair because there's more parts to fall apart. So it takes more people to keep it functioning, and it takes a little more money to keep it functioning. And then you move into houses, and then buildings, and the house that we've created as America, as this country, there's so much in disrepair that we don't know where to stop. So the money has to keep flowing, so people just keep working, and everything just keeps going in this perpetual cycle. But the money issue, as far as who we are and what we think money is important for, we're basically spinning our wheels, trying to gain funds to no real end. And in my eyes, I see things like Standard Oil, who took over all the smaller oil companies, and these rich people like the Koch brothers, and these people who basically steer elections and run the world as far as public policy, because public policy doesn't matter anymore. It's all about, it's all about corporate policy. And the individual is told that what matters is to work hard. And they continue to feed that, and we continue to believe that. But we have to remember that we are still animals in that sense. That the reason why we're attached to wealth and stuff is because in the animal kingdom, we always wanted more. It's something in human nature, and that's where I believe a lot of religious beliefs and parables and stories came from, the idea that, about rich men. It's not about a rich person not entering heaven or not going to an afterlife or not being worthy. I think that's just as preposterous as saying that a poor person or a black person or a white person doesn't. It's not about that. It's about what kind of a person are you? Are you a good person? Are you honest with yourself? And too many people judge each other by very, very shallow means. I don't like to get into the religious aspect of it, because a lot of people really do believe that things like the earth is 6,000 years old, or man rode on dinosaurs. The crazy things that I see, the ways that, say, Christianity has tried to tie science in with Christianity. There's a creationist museum which has men walking with dinosaurs in it. I don't remember where it's at, but maybe Alabama or something. It just blows my mind. I just don't understand how in the modern day we can still be trying to incorporate this old nonsense into a society which truly only values material goods. And this isn't about religion. I'm trying to say that with all the people who talk about how we want God back in this country, and they believe that religion should be free to express, and they talk about how important religion is, and I look at the statistics in this country, and like 79% of these people are supposed to be religious, but they act like complete assholes. 80% of this country aren't giving, kind souls. I mean, all of us try a little bit, but some of the Christians I've met are some of the most hateful people. And I'm not saying that they're more hateful than non-Christians at all. I'm just saying that they have been so harsh, brash, and spiteful to me that I couldn't even begin to tell you the things that I've heard from them. I mean, that's kind of like in the last video I made, I mentioned Native Americans, and somebody said, let's see, what was it? Oh, it was about the sensitivity about using the word Indians versus Native Americans, and I was like, it's because I've been attacked by, Native Americans a few times by saying, it was your ancestors that drove us out, and your ancestors, and you people, you white people, and all I can say is, I'm not going to back down and play victim to that and say, oh, I'm sorry, fuck you, asshole. I don't give a shit if your ancestors were Native Americans and my ancestors were white. You are an American now, and I'm an American now. But neither one of us are anything but Earthians, okay? In other words, I would expect Native Americans of all cultures that I come in contact with to be the most understanding that we are all one, because all of the Native, storylines and cultures talked about the Great Spirit and that we're all one and tribal understanding. So you can't be frustrated with what happened to your ancestors. This is just holding on to old nonsense. And it's not just the Native Americans, Rap songs talking about fuck whitey and stuff. I mean, it's ludicrous that so many people get away with it. And then, like, in the rapping culture, because I like rap, but I just have to turn it off when it starts insulting my race. It's like, how childish can you be? But it sells. It sells a lot. And it sells a lot to white people. And same goes with a lot of bad music that's just not really suitable for anything. Modern music, pop music, and rap is pretty much garbage today, So when we're talking about success, is that success? People want to be rock stars, but look at them. Are they really happy? Ask yourself, you can see the after stories of people who became famous. They're all miserable, except the ones that get their money and disappear and go do something interesting, like Lita Ford. I don't know, if you're not in my generation, you probably don't know her, but she played with Ozzy and did some stuff in the 80s, and I read a story about her a while back. She packed up and moved to an island and bought an island with her family and raised her kids. Great. She just wanted to stay out of the public eye. Wonderful. If that's what you want to do, that is success to me. That you were able to go enjoy life and raise a family and do all that stuff. But success isn't just being a pop star or a rock star. That's hard work, man. But as far as what we idolize in this society, there's only, one person that comes to mind is Kanye West. And, I think it's cool that people like different, interesting, outspoken stars and whatnot, but Kanye West is a complete fucking douchebag. I mean, he is a complete piece of shit. And I mean that completely. Like, I'm not holding back at all. I'm not just saying he's kind of a dick. I'm saying he is a complete douchebag. He is like the epitome of the term douchebag. And his douchebaggery reaches to extraordinary levels. And he really thinks that he is God. And he thinks that he's God's gift to art. And I wanted to bring that up to show you how politically, if you're a politician, you can let that go to your head. When you get a lot of props and say, oh, he's a great leader and this and that, they let that go to their head. And they really think they're that great that they make better decisions than the people. And this is how politics got to shit. And the same thing happens with music. If you tell a musician that they're great, or an artist they're great, it just goes to their head. And people aren't dissing Kanye for this. They're totally going, oh yeah, you are so great. Because there are so many people who need somebody desperately to idolize. And so basically what Kanye's doing is, it means that his entire crowd that supports him in the way that he acts are all people that need somebody to hold their hand, in my eyes. Because if you respect the way that he talks, you realize that He's an arrogant asshole. You can't just say, oh, well, you know, he's just kind of a jerk sometimes. No, he's a total dick all the time. And he thinks that because he's an artist, that makes him entitled to better treatment than others. And it's not just about him. I'm just using him as an example. People think Kanye West is a successful person. Because why? Because he has money. A true artist doesn't care about money, okay? He's just one of many people through history who have gone too far and got too popular and therefore let it go to their head. So, in a nutshell, success is knowing who you are, realizing you make mistakes, realizing that you will change, and that your ideas will change, and then allowing yourself to change with that. Taking feedback from other people, while at the same time standing your ground and knowing who you are. And not expecting anything, or any significant outcome with life, because life is what it is. Shit might happen. You might work your ass off, and then lose it all in an accident. Or you might not do anything and hit the damn mother load and live the rest of your life in luxury and enjoy it. It just depends on the person. So, it's not about how much money you have. Money helps. It's not about how famous you are. It's about being the best person you can be and trying continuously to improve on that. Anyway, that's my view. I don't know, what do I know? I'm just a stoner dude on my back porch.